Today we are going to learn what are worker services in .NET. Worker services are basically used for long-running services, like long-running processes, which are highly required when you have a long-running process. For example, any heavy process which is utilizing the CPU memory a lot. Secondly, you can do you want to do something in the background which you don't want any user attention. And the third one is a time-based operation on a schedule. So you want to run something in every interval of time. For example, every 20 minutes or every 1 hour, you want to run some sort of logic which runs on the background, and that usually runs that logic in every couple of seconds or minutes, the timeline that you define within that service. So background services does not involve a user interface, as I told. It only needs a background process to run, and we need to create a background service in .NET 6, and we can inject that using the iHosted services. So you need to inject that in the host as a worker service, and it works like that. So for that, we need to install the Microsoft .NET SDK, which is the Microsoft .NET SDK.worker and the worker template. So we will use the .NET CLI to create that project, and we will use the same things. There are multiple terminologies behind it, so let's quickly understand what are the terminologies. So number one is the background service, which I told, right? So a background service is something which runs in the background. Second is the hosted service. So implementation of the hosted service. So this is actually an interface which is extended to be used with the background service. So the third one is the long running service, any services that you want to run continuously. And the worker service, like few of these terminologies, you will quickly understand when we actually dive into the project in the code. So it has given some instructions here, so let's not run into that, because we are going to create this whole application, and we are going to check what is there inside the .NET worker services. So let me quickly switch to my console, my command prompt. So in Windows you have the command prompt, and here we have the terminal. So first of all, you need to check whether you have the .NET CLI installed. So for that, you need to use the command .NET --info. So once you click that, you should see all this data, whatever I'm showing you. Right now I have the .NET 7.0, but if you have .NET 6.0 or 5.0, the worker services are supported in both of those versions as well. So now since we have the .NET already installed, let's create let's look after a path and create a path actually. So I have a path known as repos, and within the repos I want to create a new background service, right? So I'll use the .NET CLI. So the .NET CLI command is .NET new, and you want to create the worker service, right? So we want to use the worker service template. So worker is the template name. So this is actually a keyword which is defined in the .NET CLI. And now I want to name my application, so -n, and I want to name my application as maybe background service. Okay, let's use the small characters. Background service demo. Okay, and when we press that, it will create a folder with under my username. In the repos folder, it create a background service demo, and it has created a CS_proj file. So let's quickly see if actually that folder is created or not. So I'll try to go inside that folder, right? So cd background service demo, right? Oh wow, so it is created, right? So now in that, let me see which files are created. So you can see here we have program.cs, we have properties, we have app settings. I think you are already familiar with all these files. but there is a new file it has created which is known as the worker.cs. So we need to see what is inside this worker.cs file. Okay, because this is our actually a background service which runs in the background. So let's quickly open the VS Code. So I already have my VS Code opened here. So I'm going to click this one, and within the VS Code I'm going to open my folder, right? So I'll go to my repos folder, and within the repos folder background service demo, and I'll click on open. So once I open that, you can see I have the VS Code, and here we get so let me actually zoom this, and in this one you can see that it already detects that it's a .NET application and it requires some sort of configuration to help you to debug the code. So you just need to click yes. So if you see, when I clicked yes, it has created a VS Code folder. In that it has created some configuration which we are not going to see in this demo. So it is out of the demo scope. So here you can see I have something, right, which I told you, which is a worker. So let's understand this a bit. So you have the public class worker. It is a normal class, right? And it is implementing background service. So if we go back to our article, right? So it is saying that you can use the background service, which is the implementation of I-hosted service. So let's see. So if I hover over this, you can see that it is a base class for implementation of long running I-hosted service. So it means that this class actually implements the I-hosted service. So you can see it is actually deriving from the I-hosted service. It's an abstract class. So since you have the background service available, so this background service has some logic. This is a simple logic here. You can see that it has injected the iLogger class just to log something, and this logger object is actually injected inside the constructor of the worker class, right? So inside the constructor you created the object using the dependency injection. So these are the basics. I'm not going to go inside these and then so this is the most interesting part here. So there is a method which is an overridden method, since it's an abstract class, right? So where we are using a while loop, and it says that the stopping token cancellation requested. So if the cancellation is not requested, keep on running every 10 seconds, right? So keep on writing this information on the logger with a delay of this task of 1 second. 1000 milli. So as we go inside this, so let's quickly try to run this and let's see what we get. So I'm going to go inside the run and debug option here, and I'll use the .NET Core console, and I click on this. So when I click on this, you can see that it is building the project, and now you see that it is writing the information every 1 second. In every 1 second it is writing the information on the console. So you can see that I have did nothing, but what it is doing is it is actually going inside the while loop, and until you stop the while loop, it is keep on running the code inside that while loop every 1 second. Correct? So let me stop this out. Now how your .NET application knows that I have to run this worker background service? So for that you need to register this service in your program.cs file. So here you see I have the host, right? Within the host I need to configure the services, and inside the service I need to register this worker service as a hosted service. Okay, so a hosted service is actually, it runs in the background. It registers that it has to run without the user attention. So now the hosted service is registered. That's why this .NET application knows that I have to run this code without any user attention or any user action behind the scenes. And it has to run in the background because it is a type of hosted service. So now, since we got here, this is normal code. So we are going to modify this code a bit for some things. So for example, now within this worker service, instead of logging the normal like a normal code, I want to call an API, and I want to get the data from that API, and I want to write that information on the logger. And also you see that we have the cancellation option here, but we don't know how to cancel this operation, right? So for that we will see what options we have, how we can cancel this process. Okay, so let's make some code changes now. Okay, so I'm going to remove this code, and the code would be something like, so we need to first register the cancellation token. So cancellation token source, and cancellation token source dot, you need to create a linked token source, and you pass on the stopping token. So once you create the object here, so you can use the CTS object, and you can mention that cancel the operation after maybe 30,000 seconds, right? Milliseconds. It means total 30 seconds. Now let's come back to the while loop, correct? And in the while loop, now I'm going to use my CTS object, and on the token I want to is cancelled. So I want to check whether the cancellation is requested or not. So if the cancellation is requested, then obviously it has to stop the code, right? So so we need to write the code here. So I can use the HTTP client for now. Although this is not the right practice, we should use the HTTP client factory in .NET, right? Which is the best way to use. But for this demo, we can use this. So here I can create a new object here, and then I can actually, since it's a asynchronous method, right? So I can call an API with a get. So client.get async. And here I can pass on, so there is a fake API server which is available on the internet. So I'm using the same here. Okay, so you can use the same URL. I'll add this URL in the video description. So once you get it, right, so we can capture the response. So you have the response here. Now you want to read what is the response that you get. So how do you do that? So await response, right? So dot content and dot read as a string async. So once you read the content, you have the result, correct? So we are saving that in the result operation. And now in the next line, I want to log that using the logger. Okay, so I have the result now, and I want to run this every 10 seconds. Okay, so what I'm going to do is await task dot delay. So I'm going to delay the task by 10 seconds, and I'll pass on my stopping token. So CTS dot token, correct? So now what happens is it will keep on running that while loop until the cancellation token is requested, and we ask the token to cancel after 30,000 milliseconds. It means 30 seconds, and I'm going to again run it in the debug mode. So you see that I got some data from the API service, correct? And in every 10 seconds, it should give me the same data, since we are running the same API, right? And it's a fake API. So let's wait for another 10 seconds. So you see, let's go up, since we couldn't actually notice that. So I'm going to make this a bigger, and let's see if it ran 3 times or not. So this is the first time it ran, okay, then the second time it ran here, and the third time it ran here within 30,000 milliseconds. And after that it threw an exception saying that your task was cancelled. Why? Because we asked for it. We configured that you need to fail the service after 30 seconds. And you can see at the last, it shut down the application. Now, so this is how you can configure a background service to run in the background and to run it in after every 30 seconds. Now, there can be requirements that before running this code, you want to run something else. Like you have some requirements where you want to run something before this runs, and you want to run something after it runs. So actually, this background service, right, it provides us 2 more interface methods, the overridden methods, right, in this abstract class. So for getting that, you just need to write override, and when you press space, it will give you 2 methods, start async and stop async. So start async will execute before this execute method, this line number 14 method, and stop async will run after this whole method is stopped running or it is cancelled. So that time it will run. So I'm going to press tab. So it will actually implement a normal method here, and after running this, right, I want to run my stop cancellation. So I'll again use the override, and I have this stop async. So now just for this demo purpose, I'm going to log something. So logger.log, and here we can write process worker service started. Okay, and I'm going to copy the same. Actually, this has to be log information, right? And at the end here I can add the same thing, and here I can use stopped, just to see whether the flow is going in the right way or not. So once you see here, so I have my overridden method here as well as here, and this is my the main logic which I want to run. So now let's again run this. Let me clear the console, and maybe we can reduce the time frame. Okay, let's keep the time frame same, and let's run this. So this is the first time, right? Now it will run the second time after 10 seconds. Now it has run the second time. Now it will run one more time, and the process will stop after that. So this is the third time, and now it is going to stop. Okay, so now let's see if the start and the stop method actually ran or not. So in the start method, we wrote the worker service started. Let's see if we got that here. This is one time, this is second time, and on the top, see, so here we have the worker service started, which is logged here. Okay, so it is logged that the worker service is started. Then the execute method started running, and I got the response from the fake API. And at the end, when the whole process stopped, at the end it also went into the stop method. Worker service stopped, this one which we wrote. So this is how you can create a background service which can run in the background, and you can run any background logic which does not require user attention, and you want to schedule something behind it. I hope this would be helpful for any of your projects. Do comment below if you think that it is helpful to you, or if we can improve something, or if there is something new which we can cover. So I'll try to cover that in the next video. Thanks for listening and have a great day.